Welcome back. Let's do the bonus video regarding to our activity hacking. So we will write our own application which is performing this task to start an activity without having access to the ADB shell. Alrighty? Okay, let's go. Okay, so here we are back at the Ubuntu VM, and yeah, one thing I would like to mention over here is that I'm not a huge fan of showing things which we haven't talked about so far. Because now to start an activity we need to interact with intents. And intents is something we do not know right now, but don't worry. We will have an extensive view onto intents in the next video. So this is some kind of preview regarding to intents. Alrighty? Okay. The other thing is, this one over here, it's an app hacking course. It's not a development course. But nevertheless, I think it's a good idea to have at least a little bit knowledge about this app development process to write a simple proof of concept like we're going to do right now. Let's say we want to present the last finding, bypassing the logging activity by directly starting the PW list activity. So if you have to explain this to the customer, we have to tell them right now, well, an attacker needs access to the ADB shell, then the attacker could use the activity manager to start this application. The customer would of course answer something like, well, if an attacker needs ADB access, then we do not consider this as a finding, because that's not a use case. And to be honest, the customer would be right with this one. But not regarding to the vulnerability itself, because we do not need access via the ADB shell to exploit this. We could also do this with a malicious application, and therefore let's simply demonstrate this to the customer right now. Okay, let's write a simple application and we keep this as simple as possible. Alrighty, let's go. So to do this, we are going to open Android Studio. So it's within Tools, Android Studio, and here we have it. Okay, I'm simply starting the studio.sh script with the bash shell. Alright, now the IDE is loading. And here we have it. So if you want to create a new application, we simply click on Create a New Project. And now we have to choose the skeleton of our project. We could use something like Google Maps activity, and full screen activity, button navigation activity, and things like this. But we want to keep it as simple as possible, and therefore we simply choose empty activity. Because by choosing empty activity, an application will be already created for us, and this has some kind of hello world text in there. So we do not have to take care about creating our own activity. We have a nice skeleton which is pretty easy to use. Okay? So we move on with empty activity. And now we simply have to give it a name. Let's say it Thief Login, let's name it Thief Logging Bypass. Okay. This is the package name which is being automatically being created. We could also give it a different name. For example, com hacking. It doesn't matter. It has to be unique, but that's all. Okay. A save location, this is our project location. We leave this as it is. And then within language, I like to use Java, but if you are familiar with Kotlin, then you can also choose Kotlin, of course. So I stick to Java. Last but not least, we've got the minimum SDK, and I go backwards to Android Nougat. So this means how far backwards compatible our application is. In case if it's simply just a proof of concept and we want to demonstrate it on a smartphone which is running Android version 11, for example, then we could also just select this one over here. But if you want to apply this to many devices, we can already see this application would run approximately on just 25% of those devices, because the other ones are more outdated right now. And therefore, we do not have to have fancy UIs or things like this. We can go back to version 7. This works perfectly fine, and we have compatibility about 90%. Alrighty, that's all so far. Yes, by clicking on Finish, now our project will be created, and we can observe this as in the bottom of this. So here's now the Gradle build, and the whole application is being set up. We can see we are already displaying our main activity. So this is our entry point of this application, and this is our screen content. The application would be absolutely ready to build and to install after this process has been finished. So let's wait, but I guess, yes, okay, nice. It has been finished. Okay, so let's see what we've got over here. We've got our main activity, and this is our entry point of our application. So the first thing that gets launched if you click on our icon is this part over here. And this is pretty amazing, because all we need to do is we need to insert our code into this method, in the onCreate method. This is the method that's being called when we are starting our application, and everything that we put into this one will be automatically be executed. All right. So if you're putting our code over here, it will run. All right. Within our onCreate method, we've got some stuff. We've got a saved instance state. We do not take care about this one. Set content view is simply just the layout of our activity. So it's being defined. And let's see in resources, layout, this one. If we double click on this XML file, we can see we've gotten hello world. So the XML file is giving the structure for our layout. But don't worry, you do not have to know anything about this one. So I just want to give you a quick introduction into this, and within the broadcast example, we will have a little bit deeper look into this whole application. Okay? And so for now, we just keep in mind, okay, an activity is a screen content. The screen content has some form of layout. In this case, it's named activity_main. We can also switch to the code path. Then we would see the structure of this layout, but we do not take care about this one. So this means if we start this application, our screen content will be visible to us. And I would suggest let's simply build this app and see what happens. We haven't entered anything right now. This is just a comment. This is not in code, but this is already in working application. Nice, isn't it? So how can we start this, or how can we build it, and where do we want to run this? The easiest option would be using the emulator. And the nice thing is we've got a direct connection in our Android Studio. So first let's start the emulator, and then we will install this app. Okay? So we can start this emulator if we go into the top right under AVD Manager. And then we've got here our Nexus device, and we simply click this play button. Okay. On the left, we see our emulator, and we also get this warning once again that running a nested virtualization is not a good idea, but we have already tested it. It's fine. Can we drag and drop this? Not yet. So we have to wait until this emulator has been booted up. Okay, so it seems to be now the case. If we click on this power icon, yes. So here we have our Ceef application still opened. Let's close this one. Okay, and let's put this to the right. Okay, now if we want to build and install our application, all we need to do is simply clicking on this play icon, this one. This will run our app, and on the left we can see the Android Studio has already made a connection to our virtual machine over here. So to this emulator. If we click on this one, we can see, yes, so we can see this one over here is our running device, and we want to install our application on this running device. So by clicking this play button, let's open the emulator once again. The Gradle build is running at the bottom, and then we will make an ADB connection and install this app without doing anything. So I keep my hands up and let's see. Okay, this build might take a while if you're doing it for the first time, so I hope it doesn't take too long. Yes, there we go. Gradle invocation finished. Now the activity gets started. And there we have it. Ceef logging bypass hello world. We have written our first application. Okay, so to be fair, we haven't done anything right now, but this is something we will change. Okay, so here we have now our application, and the task our application needs to do is starting the pwlist activity of the Ceef application. Because by starting this one, we can circumvent the login screen and entering internal function of this app. Okay, so let's get this together right now. The first thing we need to know is the exact activity we want to start. And to get this information, we simply have a look back into the Ceef application once again. So within apps, see, here we have it, and we are opening the Android manifest XML. So let's see. Yes, this is our file. We have already observed this. Nice. Okay, in this case, we are now having two. We've got the pwlist and also the file select activity, which are being exported through, and also the main logging activity, which is implicit exported. I mean, we only have to start one activity, the pwlist activity, because from there we can also reach the file select activity. So it doesn't give us an advantage if we have them separate. We can simply access this one via the PW list activity. So all our application needs to do is, it's exactly the same like we have done this in the practical part regarding to the activity manager. We need to tell our application to send out a request to start the com MWR example sieve /PW list activity. Alrighty? Okay, so let's get those information. Okay, so that's the package name, and also let's get the activity name. This one. So now's the question, how can we do this? And the answer for this one is an intent. And don't worry, we will have an extensive look into intents in the next couple of videos, okay? So for now, let's see this as some kind of preview. All right, so an intent is simply just some kind of message object, and we can start certain things with this message object. For example, we can start activities, we can interact with broadcast receivers and also services. In our case right now, we want to start an activity, and we can define our message object and then send it out with the method start activity. In our message object, in our intent, we need to define the component we want to start, which is this one over here, in this part. And then the application or the smartphone verifies if we are allowed to perform this action, and in case if we are, then the smartphone accepts our message, and the smartphone simply executes it, okay? All right, and so let's do this. So first we need to define or create a new intent object, and we can do this in the following way. Intent, we name this intent, and then we're creating a new intent object. Okay, and here we are already getting our first error. Nice, right? We have just written one line and it's already red. But this one, it's easy to solve. The application is complaining about that the class intent is not known right now, but it also offers us a solution. Do we want to include this class into our app? And yeah, this is exactly what we want to have. Therefore, we click on intent and then hitting Alt, Enter. And then the issue has been solved, and within imports, we now have imported Android cont intent. Okay, so far so good. This was not that hard right now. Next, we have to define our message object. So we need to tell which activity we want to start. So we need to address this. And therefore, we are using this package name and also the activity, this class reference. We can do this in the following way. We are now using our intent, and then we are using dot set component. And within set component, we can see we have to provide a parameter. And the parameter is a component name. Okay. So within our set component, we now have to define a component name. And we haven't defined one yet. So therefore, we are creating a new one. New component name. And here we have now two options. We could also split this up. I guess maybe that's a little bit easier to see. So let's split this up. Component name. Okay, so yes, that's easier. So this component name will be later on applied over here. But first we have to define the component name. Let me get this fixed. Okay, so now we can define the component name. And the component name simply consists of our package name, which is this one. And then the second parameter is the class reference. Okay, so this one is our first one. We apply this as a string. Okay, and we can already see the first one is a string of the package name, and the second parameter is a string of the class name. The class name is simply just PW list. So let's take this one. Okay, and that's all. Yes, here we define a new component name. Then we are using our message object and we are setting this component name. And all we need to do right now is simply starting it. Okay, so I'm not sure if this one is easier for you. We could also write it in a shorter version in this one. So that's exactly the same. Now you have seen both, and yeah, you can make the decision what's easier to read. Okay, So now let's simply start our activity, and there's already a method for a task like this. And the method is named start activity. And we can see we need to have an intent as a parameter. So let's double click on this one. And we are providing our intent. And this is all. So this is all we need to do to start code to start the following activity. Alrighty. So when we install our application and opening this one, we are starting the main activity. This main activity starts the onCreate. This happens automatically. We do not have to do anything. Just clicking on the app icon. And then within this method, we are automatically creating a new intent. We are setting a new component. So we are defining, we want to address the following class and the following package name. And then we simply say, please start this activity. So our application is sending out this intent into the smartphone. The smartphone receives this intent, looks it up and says, okay, let me try if you have the permission or the ability to start this activity. In case if we have, then those activity appears, and otherwise we get an error. Alrighty, let's do this. So let's simply click this one, run app. So then the app will be built and it will be reinstalled. All right, let's observe this on the smartphone. And what should happen now is the following. Our app should appear, but then afterwards, directly the Seev application should be started. So let's see. This is our app and looks good. Doesn't look good. Okay, it doesn't look good. Let's see. We also got this logcat error, and I think it's related to the class name. I guess within our application code, this dot is not required. But let's observe this. Okay, so here we're having the logcat, and there was this, there are a lot of crashes. Okay, let's go upwards a little bit. Maybe let's search for our package over here. So com hacking. Okay, yes, if you're searching for this now, it's easier to find this error. So here we can see activity not found exception. Okay, unable to find explicit. We will have a look into this one, what this means. Activity class. And here we have it. Okay, so the PWList activity has not been declared, or it couldn't be found on the system right now. The problem is regarding to the dot. So I would have assumed that it works, but okay, it doesn't work. It means beside the package name, we also have to provide the full class name. This means this dot is simply just a reference for this one. So we need to append it, I guess, in the following way. This is the package name. Yes. And this one here is now the complete class path to our PWList activity. Okay. So let's see if this works. And let's run this and open the emulator. Nothing happens so far. Not sure. Let's see. Yes. Nice. Okay. The Seev activity has been started and we can see it's working right now. So all we have to do to demonstrate this behavior is simply closing this application once again. So here we are back. Unfortunately, the emulator did freeze for me right now and I had to restart it. But that's not a big deal. We simply restart it and then we are good to go. Alrighty, if we now want to demonstrate this behavior, we do not have to have Android Studio open or things like this. So let's close this one over here. Okay. We are now having everything on our smartphone. All we need to do is we show to the customer, all right, let's start the Seev application. So here we have now to enter an password and we do not know this password. So let's do this test. Password is incorrect. Okay, we cannot log in right now, but let's go back and whoops. And let's start our application, the Seev logging bypass application. So let's do this in 3, 2, 1. Okay, here it will be opened and we do nothing. Now we are in this application. So if we go, for example, into settings, then we can also execute all the stuff. Let's see. Restore from SD card. Do we have a backup already? I mean, we have created once, but not sure if it has been deleted. Yes. Yes, we can see we've got access to the backup. Okay, so we can see we can use this to bypass the logging screen even by not having access to the ADB shell. Alrighty? Okay, so this is all for this video right now. In the next one we will have a deep look into intents, because these are amazing, also if you have to exploit them. Alrighty? I'm looking forward to see you there.